Hello, and welcome to another episode of Selling the South. I'm Blake Kirsch, a third-generation realtor here in the upstate of South Carolina. My guest today is one of my best friends in the world. We have had more business ventures and more fun together than almost anybody in my life, Miss Amy Zimmer. Her current venture is called Art of the Stay, yes, which is really all about her Airbnb properties here and around the world. So without further ado, here's Miss Amy.
Well, thank you, Mr. Blake, for having me on your beautiful show here.
Well,
I love this. Selling the South, I mean, it's so fitting for you.
Amy
I think we had the
person,
conversation, whenever you were graduating school, is this really what I want to do? And we all looked at you and said, this is in your genetic makeup. If you don't do this, we're all going to kind of not be your moms anymore because it's so you, and you're doing such a great job with it.
And you all definitely helped me, realize that I was going to be good at this. And what I was going to say too is, I think a lot of where I found my love for our area and from Spartanburg, Amy is who started Spartanburg Social with me, and we did that together, and that really introduced me to so many people, and that's how I met several of my guests that I've had on the show already. So obviously I wanted Amy on the show. We're just now having her on because she's been in Austria for the whole summer, but here she is. So today we're mostly going to talk about Airbnb. Amy is an absolute expert at Airbnb. She's a super host across the board in different areas. So Amy, first of all, tell us where do you own Airbnb properties here and around the world?
Well, I have them in North and South Carolina. I have them in Austria. One is located in Austria. One in Italy. So basically North and Carolinas are my stronger location. And the Upstate mainly, and then also in the mountains of North Carolina and the Linville, Boone, Banner Elk, that region. That's
what I was going to say. You kind of have your foot in a little bit of everything, because I know you have more of like a residential home in Converse Heights and one in River Falls Plantation. So those are two more houses, I guess, kind of lend more towards business people in those
larger
areas.
Homes, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you have two lakefront properties, and then you manage some other lakefront properties, and you have a cabin there near the lake, which just kind of goes into the events part. And then you have a cabin in North Carolina, which is more of like a resort kind of town, and Italy's a resort town, and then Austria is its whole own thing. So I say that all to say Amy's definitely diverse. An expert. Yes.
It's diverse. Yes. And we have anything from 2 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms. And actually 6 bedrooms. Sorry. The cabin, it sleeps 16 guests. So yes, we can pretty much handle anybody from 1 person all the way up to 16 guests into any home. So if we get all these full, which right now we're probably at a 90% capacity, it's like having a hotel.
And they're all calling you and asking for, so what makes the upstate of South Carolina an amazing place to own Airbnb properties?
Well, I think I go back 10 years plus on Airbnb, which is kind of shocking to myself to even think that I started that long ago doing Airbnb whenever, my background is retail, and I've had retail all my life. And when I sold that business, my focus, I said, I'm going to focus more on our real estate investments. And that was 4 years ago. So I was already 6-7 years into doing Airbnb. So I feel like the whole upstate as a whole, we have so much to offer. We are centrally located, number one. We've got 7 universities in our area, so we service a lot of those. You're 45 minutes to Asheville, if you think about from where we're located on Lake Bowen. So we are just a hub of amazing places for people coming, like I said, for colleges, for their children, for wanting to go take hikes. There's just so much in our area. And with the change that we're seeing right now with the baseball field in downtown Spartanburg, there's just so much to offer. And we have so many corporate companies coming in here that's really, it's just scratching the surface really of what our area has to offer. And I've always said this, we're still a little hidden gem, but I think our secret is out. After COVID, we saw a big change of what's coming into our area. I see it as a huge positive. I know a lot of people, they don't want change. But change can always be, it can be a good thing, and it's bringing so much diversity into our area. And I don't know. I love it. As much as I travel the world, it's always a great place to come home here.
I think that too. And I think, the way that you tap into it too, you capitalize on all the different areas here that are hidden gems. Places people want to be, having a home in Converse Heights that caters to a lot of people. And you've also told me when I bought my Airbnb, you explained that we have travel baseball teams that come in, and there's so many different people to cater to. So you kind of have to be a jack of all trades.
You do, and they'll find you. It's interesting that I've now started a direct booking website, theartofthestay.com, but through Airbnb, through VRBOs, through booking.com, they're going to find you. If they're looking for this area now that Google has a way that you can search for locations, if your home is out there, they're going to find it.
If you have a property listed and you're on Airbnb, do you have to separately list it on VRBO and booking.com and stuff?
No, now with this website, well, they do sync. I will say that they do sync. It used to be that they didn't. Back in the days when I started, it was you're managing two different calendars. And that's why I always stuck to Airbnb originally, because I'm a squirrel. And for me to have to manage two calendars, and to maintain a superhost status, you don't want to have any mess ups. So I originally did not do VRBO, but now that I have this direct booking website, any property that I put on there, it automatically syncs across the board.
Oh.
So I don't have any hiccups, and it's just all calibrated across the board. And that's what I did all summer. Actually, whenever I was in Europe, I know it sounded like I was just probably sitting on the beach somewhere, but I was sitting there working, trying to get this website up and running. And I'm so grateful that I did, because it's 13 properties now. So It's just started with one, and it's organically grown into 13.
What was your first Airbnb? The
cabin?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Amy lives on Lake Bowen herself. She has a cabin, which sleeps how many people?
16.
16 people. It's an awesome cabin. And it's very convenient to a lot of different locations, but also she's had weddings there and birthday parties and events.
And we have a home right across from that sleeps 10. So we can sleep 26 people in two houses. So whenever they have an event, they can come up there and have the families together, or groups, whatever they're doing. We get a lot of corporate groups, a lot of church groups, a lot of baseball teams, or teams coming in that need more capacity, but they want to be together because they come together in the evenings to cook. We've hosted Sherman College up there before, and they rent both locations so they can have their breakout days up there. I mean, it's very convenient. And I think people are seeing that they want more and more of that they can come together whether it's as a community or as a family, they want to come together and have that at-home type of a feeling. I mean, it's just like people doing breakout sessions with corporate events. They go to a location that they can be together, and that's for a reason, because so much can happen around a kitchen table or around a fireplace. It just changes all the dynamics.
There's even an Airbnb listing, you've probably seen it, in Campobello that's actually made for that. It's a giant, it sleeps like 100 people, and I think it's built for corporate
Probably
things.
Like a lodge, maybe?
Yeah, it's kind of like a lodge. Mm-hmm. You're a lodge now that your best friend owns a 16 sleeper around the corner on Lake Bowen. Another question, I think that so I do obviously always have clients that want to invest in Airbnb, and it can be daunting because there are areas like downtown Greenville that don't allow Airbnb. There's neighborhoods even on the lakes like Lake Kiwi that don't allow short-term rental. So where to you are the best places right now if somebody's looking for an Airbnb? Where should they be looking?
Well, I think definitely do your homework. Depending on where you are, you need to make sure that you have no restrictions from your city.
Mm-hmm.
That
or
would
from
be
your neighborhood.
Or in your neighborhood. Yeah, if you have any kind of HOAs that don't allow them, that's definitely one of the first things I'll take a look at is the fine print. Whenever I'm buying a property somewhere, and obviously somewhere that you feel like it's easy accessible and where there's a demand that you feel like people are going to want to come there. I mean, we're just sitting in an interesting little bubble in the upstate of South Carolina as far as these properties are concerned. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Italy is a little bit more of a destination because it's located right on the Adriatic coast, and it's in a private little club type atmosphere. So I think for Europeans or Americans coming there, it's definitely a upscale experience for them. So experience plays a lot in what you're looking for.
Wow factor is what you've told me before too. Like look for
Yes.
something that has a wow factor that you can make special.
Yeah. And whenever you're looking for those wow factors, remember you can get those wow factors in simple kind of ways. You just have to be open with your eyes and with your mind and not go in there and feel like, okay, I have to knock down all these walls to create a wow factor, because the wow factor is going to be turned on you. And that wow factor is going to be, oh no, I've put way too much money into this to make a smart investment out of it. So always try to find your wow factors in different ways. And it's not about the wow money at the end of the day. So be mindful of that too, because there's so many different elements that go into making this a smart business.
One Airbnb that I think of with that is my friends Zach and Chad own an Airbnb in Greenville. Greenville's big on mid-century modern. They bought a mid-century modern house and it looks like it came straight out of a 1970s catalog. They didn't change anything.
And that's the wow factor. And that's the wow moment.
Yeah. And for me, when I bought the lake house, I knew when I saw the view, I was like, I've grown up here my whole life, but I would want to stay here anytime. So I know, people that don't get a chance all the time to see the lake. That's what, so
Yes.
That's another good question. When you first buy an Airbnb property or you first take on one to manage, what do you do first when you walk in there? Are you just, trying to get it furnished as quick as possible or is it kind of vary depending on the property?
I think it varies depending on the property, location, asking price, how much is going to have to be done in there. I obviously never want to walk into a place that I look at, I'm like, okay, this is a total gut and a redo, even though I wouldn't be opposed to that. But your goal is to get something turned over as quickly as possible that you can start getting an income out of it. So you're putting your money to work for yourself immediately. But I understand there's many places that you have to go in and you're looking at an investment property. So you have to put money into it, one, to increase the value on it, but also to make it inviting for guests. But again, go into it with a very edited eye and realize that you don't have to change every single thing, because as critical as our eyes are, you and I are both super creative and super hyper-focused to details. Your guests, their most important thing is going to be, is this an inviting place whenever they pull up? What is the front representation of this property? How does this make me feel? Do I pull up to something that looks like I'm scared? Or does this go, no, this actually feels really good and it's comfortable, inviting? Bedding is your most important spend, a good mattress and excellent bedding. That's probably where I would say if you're looking at doing just soft good items, make sure that you offer your guests the best sleep they can possibly have. Obviously, if you're walking in and you're like, oh, a bathroom has to be redone or a kitchen has to be redone, you know that that's your most expensive cost right there. So be mindful of that whenever you're walking into a property, and let them start working for you before you put too much money into them. Evaluate the situation and identify your biggest weaknesses in those properties. Address that, but then make yourself a bucket list and a plan as you start to get income in. Slowly change things out, because you're always going to have a slow time, or you're usually going to have a slow period depending on where your Airbnb is located, and dedicate those months to getting ready for the next season. So it might be a small project that you want to do or update something. Utilize that downtime to do that.
So like if you're on the lake and winter's slower, then maybe take
Definitely.
it. So another question, I have run into this a couple times. I've had clients where I've gone to their house and thought, oh, this house would be a great Airbnb. I'm sure we could probably find someone to buy it as an Airbnb. And actually have had some people say, I'd prefer not to sell it to an investor because I feel bad for the people who are not able to afford their first home, because investors are the ones who have the cash and the money to go in and buy the more desirable properties. What do you think about that? What do you think about, the ethics of buying up homes in residential neighborhoods and using them as investment properties instead of, families and stuff buying them?
Well, I think all we have to do is look around us in our area, and we see so much housing being built left and right. They're literally coming up overnight like Legos.
Yes.
So I think we don't have that conversation here. That's not an issue here. I do feel like in our area, and I've had conversations with the chamber, and that larger housing is a problem as far as the value of a home to attract the CEOs or the people that are coming in for these higher paying jobs. That's something that we don't have in this area enough of, are the homes that would attract those kind of customers. Or I know that was the conversation for Spartanburg County, so they were fleeing more to Greenville County, trying to find those larger homes for the executives. So I really think that has become, I wouldn't say a moot point, but I would say it's definitely gotten dampered with just seeing all the housing that we have here right now. It's kind of like, whoa,
I think people see
really
that
this
on
many people here?
I think people see that on the news, and certainly like there's a whole residential neighborhood being built near me in Greer that's going to be all for rental. And, so I would love to be able to sell those homes to people, but I think there's space for both. I think that Airbnb serves a big purpose. It's definitely a great way to build a portfolio for people like me who, I don't work for a company that has a retirement program. So buying investment properties is how I invest in my future.
Yeah.
So I think there's space for both. I wanted to ask that.
And I think, and it's a very great question that you ask. And I follow that up with, I recently just had a conversation with one of our renters that has come to the area, and she's like, if you ever want to sell this home, I want to buy it. Because she's like, I love this area so much. Her daughter's here. She's in Charleston. She's like, it gives people an opportunity to also visit our area, see what we're made of, even if they're just coming in for a short visit for a corporate meeting or visiting their child here that's just in the university. It opens eyes to people that's never been to our area. So it gives them an opportunity to live here in our community and see what it has to offer. So I think it has huge pluses. I don't see all the negatives, but I'm not a negative thinker. As you know, I see more of the positive side of it. I've been challenged by some residential areas with the HOAs. I've been challenged when Spartanburg was saying that they were not going to allow Airbnbs, but that kind of spilled by the wayside, thank goodness, because I think we got all the housing up that services our community. So I just don't think it's a real conversation, and it's very expensive from a legal standpoint to get that back into, if you don't have that existing into your HOAs, you better have some deep pockets to try to fight that. So
the biggest place that I see it is definitely, thank goodness, most of the communities or most of the homes on Lake Bowen are not in neighborhoods, don't have any restrictions. That's a plus and a minus. But definitely on Lake Kiowee, there's a lot of neighborhoods that restrict Airbnb rental or short-term rental. So it's going to be very tricky there. And it's something, honestly, that those people even put in the front of their listings to say, don't look at this. Yeah, don't look at this as a short-term rental.
And that's fair, and I respect that. I mean, if you're paying a lot of money for a property, you don't necessarily want to see cars coming and going all the time into people that you don't know who they are.
I think
but
people
knock
can
on
also...
this table, I haven't had any problems with, any strange experiences in my 10 years.
I think people can, also choose to see it as a positive in their neighborhood too. I know some of my friends who have Airbnbs, the neighbors will watch out for it. When there's people staying there, they'll talk to the people while they're staying there. If you have an Airbnb that's successful, you can also afford to make the house nicer, make the outside more appealing, and then you have a nicer looking neighbor. Amy, what is your most profitable property of your Airbnbs, and why do you think that one is the most successful?
I think the cabin on Lake Bowen is probably the most successful one right now, or all along. It has been all along. It just can sleep so many, number one. I allow events up there. So that one is definitely probably my biggest producer because it's always steady. It's steady Eddie.
Another question I wanted to ask you is, what is the most important thing you've learned since you started in the Airbnb business, just kind of from experience?
Having a great team.
Like to flip the homes.
Having a great team. That's your everything.
Yeah.
And it's always been everything for me whenever I've even in retail building a management team. It's just having the right people around you that was working for you and with you and have your best interest at heart, and just taking care of the properties as if it's their own. So knowing that whenever I'm 6 hours away, maybe I am in Europe, and it's one of our busiest seasons here, that I have somebody, and that's Kim Mace, that manages our properties for us, that she's there, because you're basically on call 24/7. I like to say we're making money while we're sleeping and while guests are sleeping, but you have to also, you're on call to make sure that everything goes smoothly and check-ins are fine, and if there's any situations, that you're there.
That's what I'm kind of excited about, my first one being a lake house, and I'm also going to use myself because I know the lake well, I know the house well, my family's nearby, so I feel like I can really serve who's staying there. Kind of like my mom and Chris only have a couple Airbnb properties, and they can really keep up with them and talk to the people while they're there and answer questions, make sure they're comfortable. So starting small, I think, is going to be good for us. I know you started small too, so
yes,
hopefully I can build kind of a similar team. Do you have to have a certain type of homeowner's insurance when you do an Airbnb?
You need to have a rental insurance to cover you. All of our properties have a rental insurance, which protects that. And then Airbnb has an amazing policy too on the back end. If you have your property listed with them, they have very solid insurance policy as well.
That's another question I wanted to ask. I know you've experienced all kinds of property damage and problems because, if you have 25 amazing tenants, there's going to be one that's be crazy. So what's maybe a crazy thing that's happened at one of your Airbnbs, and how did Airbnb correct that afterwards?
I have been so blessed. I have not had a horrible nightmare story. So I'm glad I haven't, because I might be looking at this whole thing a little bit differently, but I've just been blessed. I have to say, we haven't had any catastrophic problems. And if a customer or a client or guest that break a glass, sometimes we broke a glass. Or I would say probably the biggest thing that we might be challenged with is just towels, because if you're at the lake, they might take your white towels to the beach or to the lake, and it comes back a little muddy, or whether they're baseball teams coming in and they're showering. And I'm a stickler for all white towels, because I have the theory is whenever I sleep enough in hotels that I want to walk into a place, even if it's an Airbnb,
have white towels,
and I want to have
linens.
white bedding. I want to have white towels. I want to feel like I am in a nice higher end hotel experience. I know I'm going to have a good night's sleep, and I know that it's clean. So I've had this conversation with some of my cleaning crews, and they're like, "Why don't you get darker towels?" I'm like going, I just no. I want, if they're dirty, they're dirty. If they're dirty and they have to be replaced, guess what? They have to be replaced.
And I know
so that's
that some
probably
Airbnbs
my biggest
have like
concern.
one or two black ones that are for like eye makeup
For face,
and stuff.
yes, and I do. I have the black towels for makeup and for that. But other than that, they're all white.
One thing I know that Amy's Airbnbs have served, and I know all Airbnbs serve, they're a great resource for emergencies. When we had the COVID crisis, I got COVID at the same time that my grandfather passed away, and I had nowhere to stay because everybody was coming to my house. Amy let me stay at her cottage at the lake, and it was amazing, and it really saved my family during that time. And also Amy, was able to kind of keep tabs on me while they were doing that. And then right now, with all the storms that have come through, all of Amy's Airbnbs are full with people who've lost their homes and are having to rent.
Displaced, or have severe damage to their properties. So,
and I've got people calling me asking for rentals, and I wish we had more Airbnbs to send them to right now.
Well, and I think that exactly. So it's interesting how things get turned just a little bit whenever you're being boycotted, maybe by a community or by a city saying you can't do this, but yet guess what? You guys are here and we need you. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting how it's a karmic circle, how things go around. So, you get pushed out on one side, but then now you realize if you're in a situation that we're in right now, so many people dispersed for their homes, they need people like Airbnb hosts.
If I had two little kids,
can walk in.
I mean, I would feel more comfortable staying at the cottage with a couple bedrooms and bathrooms and a kitchen than even staying at the super nice AC hotel. It's just a different feeling.
The most important thing you can do is to give somebody a roof over their heads and a comfortable bed. And that's exactly what Airbnbs do. So short stays definitely have their value.
Mm-hmm. And I think you know, it's also nice when you are in a displaced situation, kind of like when I had COVID and was staying with you. It's almost like the person who owns the Airbnb is kind of taking care of you a little bit, you know,
Kinda
they're
like your big mom.
like your big mom. They're checking on you. They're making
Yeah.
sure you have everything you need. It's nice. And I know a lot of Airbnb people, you know, they might normally have it restricted that you can't stay more than a week, or you have to stay at least 3 nights. Well, I'm sure during crises, they're working with people, trying to figure
Absolutely.
out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so is that the most rewarding part of your job, or what's the most rewarding part about being in the Airbnb business?
Yeah, all of that is to know that you've given somebody a comfortable stay for their celebration, whether it's a wedding, it's actually I'm having a same-sex marriage this weekend in our cabin. So it's really cool. They've rented the cabin and the cottage. And I'm like,
wow.
yay, I'm so glad that you guys are here because they feel safe. It's just, it's offering people just an amazing experience. And like I said, a roof over their heads, comfortable beds to stay, and just a loving environment, and allows everybody to come together. And that to me is the most rewarding. And whenever I read the comments on how perfect our stay was, we want to come back, we loved the area, thank you for sharing all this with us and opening your home to us. I mean, that's very rewarding. And I give people their space. You know, I'm not, and you can choose that as a host, you know, I'm going to be available for you, or I will be knocking on your door when you arrive. That's not me. You have a coded entry. You know, if you need something, I'm here, but I'm not going to be, hey, you know, bringing over cookies unless that's what you want.
Sometimes that makes people feel.
Yeah, they want their space and their privacy, and I totally respect that. And I'm like, if you need something, we're here, but in a distance.
What's the most challenging part about being in the Airbnb business? Like every business, you know, it comes with its challenges. I know working with the public like you do in a pretty intimate way, it's challenging. So what would be the most challenging part?
Well, like I've worked with the people intimately, whether you're doing retail and doing their clothing. I mean, it's similar because it's a little bit of you have to be a little bit of a therapist in a way.
Yes. Realtors too, or
they're
therapists.
Realtors too, exactly. I mean, you have to speak their language, and it's just being understanding, showing them respect, and answering their questions effectively and efficiently, and giving them the comfort that if they have a problem or a question that you're Johnny on the spot, and that you're not going to be sitting on a beach somewhere and not answering their replies. And during this last situation that we had with all the hurricanes, thank goodness I was fortunate enough that I didn't lose power or internet. So I was literally that next morning after the storm getting people into places. It was like I was totally consumed with that. And it was really interesting. I was like, gosh, if I would have been at my home, I would have not had power. I would have not had internet. I wouldn't have been able to do this to help people like that. So it really kind of catches you off guard that you really need to have either yourself needs to be prepared, or that you have somebody as a co-host that can help you and back you up. Because if I'm down from my communications, and we're not used to that, we're always 100% wired, right? So it's no big deal to get on your phone and go, yeah, I can read that message. But in this situation, we realized I might not be able to respond to these people. So to know that you have a backup plan and somebody else listed as your co-host is super important. And for you too, moving forward, make sure that you have somebody that can.
Are you offering to be my
I'm putting my name in the hat. You're welcome to be on artofthestay.com, Blake, if you'd like.
Amy is, absolutely a resource when it comes to Airbnb. And I also want to mention, I don't know if she wants me to mention this, but when people have set up their Airbnbs, she has offered for a fee to come and, kind of walk them through the start of the process and explain, what she's learned. And I think that's very valuable. And I also think that that if you have never stayed in an Airbnb, or if you're thinking about investing in an Airbnb, a good one to go stay in would be, especially if you're in the upstate of South Carolina, go stay at one of Amy's, because they are very high end. They kind of show you what you should be doing if you're looking to invest in an Airbnb. So I'll link her website in our show notes. And we want to end every episode by highlighting a local charity. Amy is extremely philanthropic in our community. She and her husband Roland have been since before I was born, I know. So I know Amy wanted me to talk about the Hub City Animal Project.
Yes.
She loves animals.
I love animals and our Spartanburg Humane Society.
Yes.
So anytime it comes to animals, that's where my heart is. You know, and I've done so many different community fundraisers here with the Charles Lee Center to the Cancer Association. But my heart is where the little fur babies are. So I always have to give a shout out to that. And then all the misplaced animals right now after all the hurricanes they need the help.
Amy's house usually looks like Dr. Doolittle because she has
And I personally don't have any animals anymore. It's all my grand fur babies. I have one at home right now that I have to go take care of, Mr. Bandito, but they're all rescues. So I'm a huge rescue girl. So...
Well, Amy, thank you so much. I know I'll have Amy on more to talk about Airbnb, but if you have any questions, feel free to message her on Art of the Stay on Instagram or visit her website. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Selling the South.